Elena's phone buzzed against the kitchen counter at the Blue Marlin, dancing between a stack of napkins and a half-empty coffee cup. She glanced at the screen. Miami General Hospital. Her stomach dropped. "Hello?" Elena pressed the phone to her ear, already untying her apron with her free hand. "Miss Vega, this is Nurse Patterson at Miami General. Your mother, Carmen Vega, was brought in this morning. She collapsed at work." Elena's hands went still. Collapsed. What do you mean collapsed? Exhaustion primarily, dehydration. Her blood pressure was dangerously low when the paramedics arrived. The nurse paused. "She's stable now, but she's asking for you. She's quite insistent. I'm on my way." Elena didn't remember grabbing her keys. She didn't remember telling her manager she was leaving. The next thing she knew, she was pushing through the hospital's automatic doors, the smell of antiseptic hitting her like a wall. Room 412. Fourth floor. She took the stairs because the elevator was too slow. Carmen looked small in the hospital bed. That was Elena's first thought. Her mother had always seemed so solid, so unbreakable. But lying there with an IV in her arm and dark circles under her eyes, she looked like someone who had been carrying something heavy for far too long. "Mama." Elena rushed to the bedside, grabbing her mother's hand. "What happened? Why didn't you call me? How long have you been?" "Elena." Carmen's voice was weak but firm. "Stop, I'm fine, I just need rest." "You collapsed, that's not fine." Carmen closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them again, there was something desperate in her expression, something Elena had never seen before. "I need you to do something for me," Carmen said. "Anything. What do you need? Water, food? I can talk to the doctors. I need you to take my place." Elena blinked. "What?" "At work. The Cortez estate." Carmen gripped Elena's hand tighter. "Just for 1 week. The gala is this week. They need full staff. If I miss this..." "Mama, you're in a hospital bed. They'll understand." "You don't understand." Carmen's voice cracked. 18 years, Elena. 18 years I've worked for that family. If I miss this week, if I don't fulfill my obligation..." She stopped, swallowing hard. "Everything I've worked for will be gone." Elena stared at her mother. In 26 years, she had never heard Carmen talk about her job this way. It was just cleaning, just a rich family's house. Why did she sound like her life depended on it? "What obligation?" Elena asked slowly. "What aren't you telling me?" Carmen's eyes darted away. "Please, Mija, I will explain everything. But not now. Now I need you to trust me. You want me to walk into some criminal's mansion and scrub floors because you won't tell me the truth. The Cortez family is complicated, but you'll be safe. I've made sure of that." How have you made sure?" Carmen didn't answer. She just looked at Elena with those desperate eyes, and Elena felt something in her chest crack. 1 week, Elena said finally. "That's it. And when you're out of here, you're telling me everything." Carmen's shoulders sagged with relief. Thank you, my Hija. Don't thank me yet." Elena stood, pulling her hand free. "I haven't agreed to like it." Transition. 2 hours later, Elena stood at the gates of the Cortez estate and immediately understood why her mother had never brought her here. Elena had no idea that walking through those gates would turn her entire world upside down. The man they called the Devil of Miami, the one who made grown men tremble with a single look, was about to meet the only woman who would ever bring him to his knees. And nothing would ever be the same. Before Elena walks through those gates, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell, because what happens next, you're not going to want to miss a single second. The Cortez estate wasn't a house, it was a statement. Iron gates rose 15 feet high, topped with security cameras that tracked Elena's car as she pulled up to the entrance. Beyond the gates, a long driveway curved through manicured gardens toward a mansion that looked like it belonged in a magazine. White stone, tall windows. The kind of wealth that didn't need to announce itself because everyone already knew. Elena rolled down her window as a guard approached. He was built like a refrigerator, with a shaved head and a face that suggested smiling was against his religion. "Name?" he asked. "Elena Vega. I'm here to work, filling in for Carmen Vega." The guard checked his tablet. His expression didn't change, but Elena saw the slight pause in his movements. "Carmen Vega is on the list. You're not." "She's in the hospital. I'm her daughter. I'm taking her shifts this week." "That's not how this works." The guard looked up from his tablet. "No appointment, no entry, house rules." Elena felt her jaw tighten. She hadn't driven across Miami, left her job, and agreed to clean some rich family's toilets just to be turned away by a guard who looked like he bench-pressed small cars. "Look," she said, keeping her voice steady, "my mother has worked here for 18 years. She collapsed from exhaustion this morning. She asked me to cover for her. Either you can call someone inside and verify that, or I can sit here and honk my horn until someone with actual authority comes to deal with me." The guard stared at her. Elena stared back. "Lady, I don't care if you're the Queen of England." He crossed his arms. "No appointment, no entry." "Fine." Elena put her hand on the horn. "Then call whoever's in charge. Tell them Carmen Viga's daughter is here, ready to work, and she's not leaving until someone with actual authority tells her to." She pressed the horn. The sound echoed across the quiet estate. The guard's eye twitched. He pulled out a phone, turned away, and spoke quietly into it. Elena couldn't hear what he was saying, but she watched his posture change. His shoulders stiffened. His free hand dropped to his side. When he turned back around, his face was different. Not friendly. Elena doubted this man had ever been friendly in his life, but something had shifted. "Go ahead." He stepped back from the car. "Main house, someone will meet you." Elena released the horn. "Thank you." She drove through the gates before he could change his mind. Transition. The main house was even more imposing up close. Elena parked near a side entrance and walked toward the door, her sneakers loud against the stone pathway. The foyer of the Cortez mansion was designed to make visitors feel small. Elena stepped inside and stopped, taking it in. Marble floors polished to a mirror shine. A chandelier that probably cost more than her apartment building. Artwork on the walls that she was afraid to look at too closely because it was definitely worth millions. The air smelled like fresh flowers and old money. "Miss Viga." Elena turned. A woman stood at the base of a curved staircase, hands clasped in front of her. She was maybe 60, with silver-streaked hair pulled back in a severe bun and a face that gave away nothing. "I'm Maggie Stone, head of household." The woman's voice was crisp, professional. "Your mother called ahead." She explained the situation. "She did." Elena felt a flash of irritation. Of course Carmen had already arranged everything. Of course she'd known Elena would say yes. "You'll find your duties on the schedule in the staff quarters. Working hours, meal times, restricted areas. Everything you need to know is documented." Maggie reached into her pocket and pulled out a folded grey dress with a white apron. "Here is your uniform." Elena looked at the uniform. It was exactly what she'd imagined when Carmen had mentioned the staff. Grey fabric, stiff collar, the kind of thing designed to make the person wearing it invisible. She didn't take it. "I'm not wearing that," Elena said. Maggie's eyebrow lifted. It was a small movement, barely perceptible, but Elena caught it. "Excuse me, I'll work, I'll clean, I'll do whatever's on your schedule." Elena kept her voice calm but firm. "But I'm not putting on a costume so people can pretend I'm invisible. I'll wear my own clothes." Maggie studied her for a long moment. Elena had the uncomfortable feeling of being assessed, measured, and categorized in real time. "The uniform has been standard for 30 years, Maggie said. "Then I'll be the first exception. That's not my decision to make." "Whose decision is it?" Maggie's lips pressed together. For a moment, Elena thought she might actually smile. She didn't. "Follow me," Maggie said. "Mr. Cortez will want to speak with you." Transition. Maggie led Elena through a maze of hallways, past closed doors and silent rooms, until they reached a set of double doors at the end of a long corridor. The study was dark. Not pitch black, light filtered through heavy curtains, and a lamp glowed on a massive desk, but dark enough that Elena had to pause in the doorway while her eyes adjusted. Maggie stepped aside. "Miss Viga, sir, Carmen's daughter. Leave us." The voice came from somewhere near the window, low, controlled, the kind of voice that didn't need to be loud because everyone leaned in to hear it anyway. Maggie nodded once and closed the doors behind her. Elena was alone. She still couldn't see him clearly. Just a silhouette against the curtained window, tall and broad-shouldered. He didn't move, didn't turn around, just stood there letting the silence stretch. Elena refused to speak first. If he wanted to play games, she could play too. 30 seconds passed. Then 60. Finally, he turned. Dominic Cortez stepped into the lamplight, and Elena felt her breath catch in her throat. He was tall, taller than she'd expected. Dark hair pushed back from a face that looked like it had been carved from stone, sharp jaw, straight nose, and eyes that were grey like storm clouds, cold and assessing as they swept over her from head to toe. He was beautiful, he was terrifying, and Alina's heart was hammering so hard she was sure he could hear it. "You refused the uniform," he said, not a question. Alina swallowed. "I did. Everyone wears the uniform. It's been the standard for 30 years. So I've heard." Dominic moved closer. His footsteps were silent on the thick carpet, and Alina had to fight the urge to step back. He stopped a few feet away, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive, and see the small scar above his right eyebrow. "Your mother has worked for my family for 18 years, he said. "She has never once broken protocol, never complained, never asked for special treatment." His eyes narrowed slightly. "You've been here 5 minutes, and you're already making demands." "I'm not making demands, I'm stating conditions." "Is there a difference?" "Yes, a demand is asking for something unreasonable. A condition is establishing terms for an agreement." Alina forced herself to meet his gaze. "I'm here to help my mother. I'll work hard, and I'll do the job right, but I won't pretend to be less than I am so your guests feel more comfortable." Something flickered in Dominic's expression. Alina couldn't identify it. Annoyance, surprise, interest. "What exactly are your conditions?" he asked. "No uniform, I'll dress professionally but in my own clothes. Double the standard pay since I'm covering a full week on no notice. And I'll do things my way. If the result is the same, it shouldn't matter how I get there." Dominic was silent for a long moment. His eyes never left hers, and Alina felt like she was being X-rayed. Like he could see every thought in her head, every fear she was trying to hide. "You're either very brave or very stupid," he said finally. "I've been told it's hard to tell the difference." The corner of his mouth twitched. It wasn't quite a smile, but it was close. "Double pay, no uniform, your methods." He paused. "But if anything is less than perfect, you answer directly to me, not Maggie, not the other staff, me." "Understood." Elena's heart was still pounding, but she kept her voice steady. "Understood. Good." Dominic turned away, walking back toward his desk. The conversation was clearly over. "Maggie will show you to the staff quarters. The schedule starts tomorrow at 6. Elena turned toward the door. Her hand was on the handle when his voice stopped her. "Miss Vega." She looked back. Dominic was watching her from across the room, his expression unreadable. The lamplight caught his grey eyes and made them gleam. "Your mother speaks highly of you," he said. "Don't make her a liar." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. Whether it was fear or something else entirely, she couldn't say. "I don't need your approval, Mr. Cortez. I just need you to keep your word." She walked out before he could respond. Transition. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Maggie gave Elena a tour of the estate, explained the rules, and showed her to a small room in the staff quarters. By evening, Elena was exhausted, but sleep wouldn't come. The next morning, Elena was arranging flowers in the main sitting room when she heard the front door open. She didn't think much of it at first. Staff members had been coming and going all morning, preparing for some event later in the week, probably another delivery. Then she heard the heels. Click, click, click. Sharp and deliberate against the marble floor, each step announcing its owner's presence like a warning shot. Elena looked up. The woman walking through the foyer was stunning. Blonde hair perfectly styled, designer dress that probably cost more than Elena's car, a face that belonged on magazine covers, all high cheekbones and full lips and expertly applied makeup. She moved like someone who owned every room she walked into. Her eyes swept across the foyer, dismissing the artwork, the staff, everything, until they landed on Elena. The woman stopped. "You're new." It wasn't a question. Her voice was smooth, cultured, and sharp enough to cut glass. Elena straightened. "I'm filling in for Carmen Vega. She's unwell." "Carmen." The woman's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Yes, I know Carmen, sweet woman, very dedicated." She said dedicated like it was an insult. "And you are?" Elena asked. The woman laughed. It was a pretty sound, completely devoid of warmth. "You don't know who I am? Should I?" Something flashed in the woman's eyes. Annoyance quickly hidden. "Victoria Ashford, Dominic and I are..." Well, she examined her manicure. We were engaged, we will be again. Elena felt something twist in her stomach. She told herself it was irrelevant. She was here to work, not to care about Dominic Cortez's love life. Congratulations, Elena said flatly. Victoria's eyes narrowed. She took a step closer, and Elena caught the scent of expensive perfume, something floral and aggressive. Tell Dominic I'm here, Victoria said. He'll want to see me. I'm not a messenger. You can wait in the sitting room like everyone else. The temperature in the room dropped about 10 degrees. Victoria stared at Elena like she was something unpleasant stuck to her designer shoe. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Victoria smiled. It was the kind of smile that made Elena want to check for knives. You know, Victoria said softly, I've been coming to this house for 4 years. I've watched staff come and go. The ones who survive are the ones who know their place. She leaned closer. Learn yours quickly. She turned and walked toward the sitting room, heels clicking against the marble like a countdown. Elena watched her go. Her hands were trembling slightly, but not from fear, from anger. Transition. That night, long after the house had gone quiet, someone else was watching. The security room was buried in the basement of the mansion, accessible only by a key card that fewer than 5 people possessed. Dominic sat alone in front of the monitors. 12 screens showed different angles of the estate, the gates, the gardens, the main hallways, the kitchen. He should have been reviewing the perimeter footage. There had been rumors of a rival family making moves, and Santos had flagged some unusual activity near the east wall. But Dominic wasn't watching the gates. He was watching screen 7, the staff kitchen. Elena Vega sat alone at the small table in the corner, a book open in front of her. She'd found something to eat, leftover pasta, it looked like, and was reading between bites. Dominic watched her turn a page, watched her tuck a strand of dark hair behind her ear, watched her smile slightly at something she'd read. He should switch cameras. He should check the perimeter. He should do literally anything except sit here like some kind of the door opened behind him. Santos stepped in, his face carefully neutral. He glanced at the monitors, noting which screen Dominic was watching, and said nothing. Problem? Dominic asked without turning around. No, sir, just checking if you needed anything. I don't, Santos nodded. He stood there for another moment, not leaving. Santos, sir, get out. Yes, sir. The door closed. Dominic was alone again. On screen 7, Elena laughed at something in her book. It was a small laugh, quiet and genuine, the kind of laugh that belonged to someone who didn't know they were being watched. Dominic had built an empire on control, every decision calculated, every emotion contained. He had learned after Raphael died that feelings were liabilities, that caring about anything, anyone, was just giving your enemies ammunition. For 7 years, he had felt nothing, wanted nothing. Let no one close enough to matter. But as he watched Elena Vega laugh quietly at her book alone, unguarded, completely unaware of his attention, he felt something stir in his chest. Something he hadn't felt in a very long time. Something dangerous. Something that, if he was smart, he would crush before it destroyed everything. The only problem, he wasn't sure he wanted to. Dominic reached for the control panel. His finger hovered over the button that would switch the camera, move on, let this go. He didn't press it. Instead, he leaned back in his chair, eyes fixed on screen 7, and let himself watch her for a little while longer. Tomorrow, things would change. Victoria was back, circling like a shark that smelled blood. The gala was 5 days away, and tensions were already rising. And Elena Vega, this impossible woman who had walked into his house and refused to bend, was going to be right in the middle of all of it. Dominic didn't know what was coming. But for the first time in 7 years, he found himself looking forward to finding out. The next morning, everything changed. The next morning, Elena was arranging fresh flowers in the main sitting room when she heard the footsteps again. Click, click, click. Victoria Ashford swept into the room like she owned it. Today she wore cream silk, her blonde hair loose around her shoulders, a smile on her face that didn't reach her eyes. Good morning. Victoria settled onto the velvet sofa, crossing her legs. I didn't catch your name yesterday in all the chaos. Elena kept her hands on the flowers. Elena, Elena. Victoria repeated it slowly, tasting the syllables. Pretty name, common but pretty. Elena said nothing. She adjusted a rose that didn't need adjusting. I wanted to apologize for yesterday, Victoria continued. I was rude. It's just seeing a new face in this house where I've spent so much time. She let the sentence trail off. You understand. I understand you and Mr. Cortez were engaged. Victoria's smile flickered, just for a moment. We will be again. These things take time, that's all. Dominic is complicated, but I've known him for 4 years. I know what he needs. And what's that? Someone from his world, someone who understands the weight he carries. Victoria examined her manicure. Someone who won't run when things get difficult. Elena felt anger building in her chest, hot and sharp. She kept her voice level. Sounds like you've got it all figured out. I usually do. Victoria stood, smoothing her dress. I'm glad we had this talk, Elena. I think it's important we understand each other. She moved toward the door, then paused. Oh, one more thing. Victoria turned back, her expression innocent. Dominic doesn't like complications. People who create problems for him, they don't last long around here. Just something to keep in mind. She walked out before Elena could respond. Transition. An hour later, Elena was in the dining room setting the table for lunch. She'd almost convinced herself that Victoria's visit had been the worst of it. She was wrong. The crystal glasses were arranged perfectly. The silverware gleamed. Elena stepped back to survey her work, allowing herself a small moment of satisfaction. Then she heard the heels. Victoria appeared in the doorway, holding a glass of red wine. Her smile was bright, too bright. There you are, I was hoping I'd catch you. Elena's stomach tightened. Can I help you with something? Actually, yes. Victoria walked toward her wine glass tilted casually in her hand. I wanted to give you something, a welcome gift, I suppose. She was 3 feet away, then 2, then her foot caught on nothing at all. Victoria stumbled forward. The wine glass flew from her hand. Deep red liquid splashed directly onto Elena's white shirt, soaking the fabric, cold and spreading. Elena gasped. She looked down at herself, at the stain blooming across her chest like a wound. Oh no, Victoria's voice dripped with false concern. Oh, I'm so sorry, how clumsy of me. Elena's hands were shaking. She could feel the wine soaking through to her skin. You should probably change. Victoria tilted her head, studying the damage. Although I suppose you people don't have much to change into. You people, Elena's voice was quiet. Staff, servants. Victoria waved a dismissive hand. Whatever you prefer to call yourselves. My family has employed hundreds over the years. I know how it works. 2 other staff members had stopped in the doorway. Elena could feel their eyes on her, feel the humiliation burning in her face. She should walk away. She should go to her room, change her shirt, forget this happened. She turned toward the door. Elena was 3 steps from escape when Victoria's voice stopped her. You know, I almost feel sorry for you. Elena paused. Don't turn around, just keep walking. 18 years your mother has scrubbed these floors. Victoria's voice was silky, almost thoughtful. 18 years cleaning up after people who barely remember her name. Working herself into a hospital bed for what? A paycheck? A room in the servants' quarters. Elena's hands curled into fists at her sides. And now her daughter. Victoria laughed softly, following the same pathetic path, wearing wine on her shirt, cleaning up messes, pretending she belongs somewhere she doesn't. I suppose the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Something inside Elena snapped. She turned slowly. Victoria was still smiling, still so confident, so certain of her own power. The room went silent. The staff in the doorway held their breath. Elena felt rage flooding through her veins, hot and pure and clarifying. Her fear was gone. Her doubt was gone. There was only this moment and the woman in front of her. Elena crossed the room in 3 steps, her hand connected with Victoria's face. Hard, the sound echoed off the walls like a gunshot. Victoria staggered backward, her hand flying to her cheek. Her eyes went wide with shock. For one perfect moment she was speechless. Elena's palms strung. She didn't care. You can say whatever you want about me. Elena's voice was low and steady, each word precise. My clothes, my background, my future, I don't care. She stepped closer. Victoria stepped back. But if you ever speak about my mother like that again, a slap will be the kindest thing you receive. Victoria's shock transformed into fury. Her cheek was already reddening, the outline of Alina's hand visible against her perfect skin. "You," Victoria's voice came out strangled. "Do you have any idea what you've just done?" "I know exactly what I've done." "Dominic," Victoria screamed the name like a weapon. "Dominic." Dominic appeared in the doorway within seconds. His face was unreadable, his grey eyes taking in the scene, Victoria with her hand pressed to her face, Alina standing defiant, wine staining her shirt. He already knew. Alina realized it immediately. He'd been watching, or listening, or both. "Did you see what she did?" Victoria pointed at Alina, her voice shaking with rage. "She assaulted me, in your house, I want her gone now tonight." Dominic said nothing. He looked at Victoria, then at Alina, the silence stretched. "Well," Victoria demanded, "are you going to do something or are you just going to stand there?" Dominic walked forward. He stopped between the two women, his back to Alina, facing Victoria. "What did you say to her?" His voice was quiet, dangerously quiet. "What?" "I didn't. She attacked me for no reason." "Victoria." Something in his tone made her stop. "I asked you a question. What did you say to her?" Victoria's composure cracked, just slightly. "I was just making conversation. She overreacted." "Is that true?" Dominic turned to Alina. "Is what she said true about your mother?" Alina met his eyes. "Every word." Dominic held her gaze for a long moment. Something passed between them, something Alina couldn't name. Understanding, maybe. Or recognition. He turned back to Victoria. "Santos." Santos appeared in the doorway, silent as always. "Escort Miss Ashford to her car. She's overstayed her welcome." Victoria's face went white. "You're choosing her a maid. I'm choosing not to tolerate poison in my house." Dominic's voice was cold enough to freeze. "Leave now, and Victoria, don't come back. You'll regret this." Victoria's voice trembled with fury. "You'll regret, Santos." Santos took Victoria's arm. She shook him off, gathered what remained of her dignity and walked toward the door. She paused at the threshold, her eyes finding Alina. "This isn't over," Victoria said quietly, "not even close." Then she was gone. Transition, the dining room emptied. The other staff disappeared. Alina stood alone with her wine-stained shirt and her racing heart until the kitchen door burst open. Lucia Cortez exploded into the kitchen where Alina had retreated, her face lit up like Christmas morning. "Oh my God," Lucia grabbed Alina's hands. "Oh my God, you actually slapped her, you actually did it." Alina blinked. "I what?" "Victoria Ashford, the Victoria Ashford. You know you're the first person to ever slap her, like ever." Lucia was practically bouncing. "I've wanted to do that for 3 years, 3 years." Alina felt a laugh bubbling up despite everything. "I think I just got myself killed." "Are you kidding?" Lucia's eyes were shining. "My brother just kicked her out." "He's never done that, not once in 4 years. Do you understand what that means? That he felt sorry for the help?" "No." Lucia gripped her hands tighter. "It means he likes you, and Dominic doesn't like anyone. Believe me, I'm his sister, I would know." Alina didn't know what to say. She felt overwhelmed by the adrenaline fading from her system, by this strange girl's enthusiasm, by everything that had happened since she walked through those gates. "I'm Lucia, by the way." The younger woman finally released her hands. "I know we technically met at dinner, but you were doing the polite staff thing, so it doesn't count. This counts. This is real." "Alina." "I know," Lucia grinned. "Everyone knows. You're the girl who talked back to my brother, refused the uniform, and slapped his ex-fiancée in the same week. You're basically a legend." Alina looked down at her wine-stained shirt and felt exhaustion wash over her. "I'm a mess. The best people are." Lucia's expression softened. "Come on, let me find you something clean to wear. And then you're going to tell me everything, and I mean everything, about the look on Victoria's face when you hit her." Despite everything, Alina smiled. Transition, that night Alina couldn't sleep. At 2 a.m. she found herself wandering the mansion's dark hallways and ended up somewhere she hadn't planned to be. The study door was open. Light spilled into the hallway. Alina should have walked past. Should have gone back to her room, should have done anything except what she did next. She stepped inside. Dominic sat at his desk, a glass of whiskey in his hand, papers scattered in front of him. He looked up when she entered. He didn't look surprised. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "No." Alina hesitated in the doorway. "I can leave, stay." It wasn't an order. It was almost a request. Alina walked further into the room. The study felt different at night, softer somehow, the harsh lines blurred by shadows. She sat in the chair across from his desk. Neither of them spoke for a long moment. "Thank you," Elena said finally. "For what you did today, you didn't have to." Victoria was out of line. "She's been out of line before. Lucia told me you never stopped her." Dominic's jaw tightened. He took a drink of his whiskey, set the glass down carefully. "Things change." "What things?" He looked at her then. Really looked at her. His grey eyes were tired in a way Elena hadn't seen before, not exhausted, worn. "Do you know why they call me the Devil of Miami?" he asked. Elena's heart rate spiked. "I've heard stories." "Stories?" He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "People think I enjoy it, the fear, the reputation. They think I was born for this, the suits, the power, all of it. Weren't you? I was 6 months from finishing law school when my brother died." Dominic's voice was flat, matter of fact, as if he was reciting someone else's history. "Top of my class. I was going to be a prosecutor, fight the system from the inside, make a difference." Elena stayed silent. She could feel the weight of what he was about to say. "Raphael was killed in a deal gone wrong. I was 27 years old, holding my brother while he bled out in a warehouse parking lot." Dominic's hand tightened around his glass. "And the next day I inherited everything he'd built, everything I'd spent my whole life trying to escape." "I'm sorry." The words felt inadequate. Elena said them anyway. 7 years. Dominic looked at her with something raw in his expression. 7 years I've been this person, doing what needs to be done, becoming someone my brother would have hated." He paused. "Someone I hate. Then why do it?" "Because someone has to. Because if I walk away, people I care about get hurt." He set down his glass. "Because I don't know how to be anything else anymore." Elena leaned forward. "That's not true. You don't know me. I know you let me keep my terms when you could have thrown me out. I know you defended me today when you had no reason to. I know you're sitting here at 2 a.m., drinking alone, telling a stranger things you've probably never said out loud." Dominic stared at her. His expression shifted. Surprise, maybe, or something deeper. "Why are you telling me this?" Elena asked softly. "I don't know." His voice was rough. "Maybe because you're the first person in 7 years who looks at me like I'm something other than a monster." The silence that followed was different, charged. Elena felt her breath catching, her pulse quickening. "You're not a monster," she said. "You don't know that. I know enough." The distance between them had somehow shrunk. Elena didn't remember moving. Maybe he had moved. Maybe they both had. Dominic's hand rose slowly, almost hesitantly, a gesture that didn't match the man who commanded rooms with a glance. His fingers hovered near her face, close enough that she could feel the warmth of his skin. Elena's breath caught, her heart hammered against her ribs. His fingertips brushed her cheek, feather light, barely there. "Elena." Her name in his voice was different, softer, almost reverent. She should pull away. She should remember who he was, what his family had done to hers, why she was really here. But she couldn't move, didn't want to move. His hand cupped her face. His grey eyes searched hers, looking for permission. She didn't say no. He leaned closer. She could smell his cologne, feel his breath warm against her lips, see the moment his control finally cracked. A door slammed somewhere in the house. They sprang apart like they'd been burned. Dominic's expression shuttered instantly, the vulnerability disappearing behind that familiar mask. Elena's heart was racing, her face flushed, her whole body trembling with what had almost happened. "You should go." His voice was rough. "Get some sleep." "Dominic, go, please." Elena stood on unsteady legs. She walked to the door, paused, looked back. He wasn't watching her. He was staring at his desk, jaw clenched, hands gripping the edge like he was holding himself in place. She left without another word. Chapter 2, Micro Cliffhanger. Elena returned to her room as the sun began to rise. Her heart was still racing for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. She had come to this house to protect her mother, to earn money, to stay invisible. But somewhere between a slap and a 2 a.m. confession, everything had changed. Dominic Cortez wasn't supposed to be human. He wasn't supposed to have wounds that matched her own. And she definitely wasn't supposed to be thinking about what might have happened if that door hadn't slammed. She pressed her hands to her face, trying to steady herself. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, a text from the hospital. "Your mother is awake. She's asking to see you. She says it's urgent." Elena's stomach dropped. 3 hours later, sitting in that hospital room, Carmen Vega would tell her daughter the truth about Alejandro, about the theft, about the 18 years of silence, about everything. And when she finished, Elena would realize that the life she thought she knew had never existed at all. The next morning, Elena drove to the hospital. She had no idea that by the time she left, nothing would ever be the same. Elena's phone rang at 7 a.m. Her mother's voice was barely a whisper. "My Hija, please come. There's something I need to tell you, something I should have told you years ago." 40 minutes later, Elena sat in the hard plastic chair beside her mother's hospital bed. Carmen looked smaller than she remembered, fragile in a way that had nothing to do with exhaustion. "Mama." Elena took her mother's hand. "What is it? What's wrong?" Carmen's eyes filled with tears. She gripped Elena's fingers like she was afraid to let go. "Your father," Carmen said. "I need to tell you about your father." Elena felt her heart freeze. For 18 years, Alejandro Vega had been a ghost, a man who walked out when Elena was 8, who chose something else over his family and never looked back. "What about him? He didn't leave us." Carmen's voice cracked. "He didn't abandon us. I told you that because the truth was so much worse." The room seemed to shrink. Elena felt cold spreading through her chest. "What truth?" Carmen took a shaky breath. "Your father made a terrible mistake. He stole from the Cortez family. Money, a lot of money, and when they found out, she couldn't finish. She didn't have to." Elena understood. The realization hit her like a physical blow. 18 years of hatred, 18 years of believing her father had chosen to leave, all of it built on a lie. "They killed him." Elena's voice was flat. "The Cortez family killed my father. I begged them to spare his life." Carmen was crying now, tears streaming down her weathered face. "I begged on my knees. They said no. But they let me live if I worked. 18 years to repay what he took, 18 years of silence." Elena pulled her hand away. She stood up, walked to the window, stared at nothing. "You let me walk into that house." Her voice shook with betrayal. "You let me work for the people who murdered my father. You never said a word. Would you have gone if you knew?" Carmen's voice was pleading. "Would you have helped me finish this? I'm so close, my Hija. 3 more months and the debt is paid. 3 more months and we're free." Elena turned. Her mother looked broken, years of secrets carved into every line of her face. And despite everything, despite the rage and the grief and the devastating sense of betrayal, Elena felt something else underneath it all. Love, complicated, painful love. "You should have told me," Elena said quietly. "I know." Carmen reached for her. "I know, I'm sorry, I thought I was protecting you." Elena didn't take her hand, but she didn't leave either. "The gala is tonight," she said. "I need to go back." "Elena, I'll come see you tomorrow. We'll talk more then." She walked out before her mother could respond. Transition. Elena drove back to the Cortez estate in a daze. The Miami skyline blurred through her windshield, all those gleaming towers, all that money, and somewhere beneath it all, her father's blood. She gripped the steering wheel until her knuckles went white. Everything she thought she knew about her life had just shattered into pieces. Her father hadn't abandoned them. He'd been killed, and her mother had spent 18 years paying for his mistakes in silence, protecting Elena from a truth that would have destroyed her. Elena thought about Dominic, about his confession in the study, about the way he'd talked about becoming someone he hated. Had he known? Did he know who she was? She kept driving toward the estate. She wasn't sure why. Maybe because running away wouldn't change anything. Maybe because she needed to look Dominic in the eye and understand what kind of man he really was. Or maybe because somewhere between a slap and an almost kiss, she'd started to believe he was different. The gates of the Cortez estate appeared ahead. Elena took a breath and drove through. The mansion was chaos when Elena arrived. Staff rushed through hallways carrying flower arrangements. Caterers shouted instructions in the kitchen. The charity gala was tonight, and everyone was preparing for Miami's. Lucia found Elena in the staff corridor, took one look at her face, and pulled her into an empty room. "What happened?" Lucia's voice was soft. "You look like someone died." Elena almost laughed. Someone had died 18 years ago, and she'd just found out. "I can't talk about it." Elena's voice was thick. "Not yet." Lucia studied her for a long moment, then she nodded. "Okay, you don't have to." She squeezed Elena's hand. "But you need to get ready." The gala starts in 4 hours. I'm not going to the gala, I'm staff. No, Lucia shook her head. My brother invited you as a guest. Elena stared at her. What? He asked me this morning before you left. Lucia's expression was knowing. Dominic doesn't invite people to things, Elena. He tolerates their presence or he doesn't. The fact that he asked for you specifically, that means something. Elena felt her heart twist. How could she stand next to him tonight knowing what she knew? How could she look at him without seeing her father's ghost? But how could she walk away without knowing the truth? I don't have anything to wear, she said finally. Lucia grinned. Leave that to me. Transition. 4 hours later, Elena stood in front of the mirror in Lucia's room, wearing a dress she never could have afforded, deep emerald silk that made her skin glow. She barely recognized herself. The ballroom was magnificent. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light over hundreds of guests, politicians, business leaders, old money and new. Music floated from a string quartet in the corner. Champagne sparkled in fluted glasses. Elena descended the staircase slowly, her heart pounding. She felt exposed in a way that had nothing to do with the dress. Then she saw Dominic. He stood near the center of the room, surrounded by people demanding his attention. But when Elena appeared, his eyes found her immediately. His expression shifted, something soft broke through the controlled mask just for a moment. He excused himself and walked toward her. You came. His voice was low, meant only for her. I almost didn't. I'm glad you did. He offered his hand. Dance with me? Elena hesitated. She thought about her father, about 18 years of lies, about all the reasons she should hate this man and everything he represented. She took his hand. They moved onto the dance floor. His arm wrapped around her waist, firm and warm. She could feel his heartbeat through his jacket, steady, controlled, just like everything else about him. Something's wrong, he said quietly. What happened? Before Elena could answer, a voice cut through the music. Ladies and gentlemen, Elena's blood ran cold. She knew that voice. Victoria Ashford stood at the top of the staircase, wearing red like a warning sign. Her smile was sharp enough to draw blood. I hate to interrupt such a lovely evening, Victoria continued, her voice carrying across the silent ballroom, but I believe our host deserves to know who he's been harboring. The crowd turned. Elena felt every eye in the room land on her. This woman, Victoria pointed directly at Elena. Elena Vega is the daughter of Alejandro Vega, the thief who stole from the Cortez family 18 years ago. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Elena couldn't breathe. But that's not all. Victoria's smile widened. I have evidence that she's been sabotaging Dominic's business dealings ever since she arrived. The wine shipment that was ruined last week, her doing. Perhaps the criminal gene runs in the family. The whispers started immediately. Elena felt the room closing in, felt the weight of every judgment crushing her chest. She couldn't speak, couldn't defend herself, couldn't do anything but stand there while Victoria destroyed her. Dominic released Elena's waist. He stepped forward and the room fell silent. His expression was terrifyingly calm. Elena had seen that look before in the study when he talked about becoming someone he hated. This was the devil of Miami. This was the man people feared. Miss Ashford, Dominic's voice was soft, deadly. Thank you for that illuminating accusation. Victoria's confidence flickered. It's the truth. I have proof. So do I. Dominic pulled out his phone. With a few taps, the massive screen behind the orchestra flickered to life. Security footage, the wine cellar 2 nights ago, and there was Victoria clearly visible, her face unmistakable, opening bottles and pouring something inside. The room erupted. That's fake. Victoria's voice rose to a shriek. You edited it. Security footage from my estate is monitored by 3 separate encrypted systems. Dominic's voice cut through the noise. It cannot be altered. Santos can confirm this for anyone who doubts. Santos stepped forward from the shadows, his face impassive. Every frame verified, untampered. Victoria's face went white. Dominic turned to face the crowd, Miami's elite, the people whose opinions mattered most in Victoria's world. Miss Ashford has been sabotaging my family's business for months, he announced, attempting to frame an innocent woman to cover her own crimes. This ends now. He walked to Elena. The crowd parted around him like water. In front of everyone, every politician, every business rival, every society gossip who would spread this story across Miami by morning, Dominic took Elena's hand and kissed it. Anyone who slanders this woman, he said clearly, slanders me, and everyone here knows the consequences of that. Victoria tried to speak. Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. No one would look at her. The people who had courted her favor for years suddenly found their champagne glasses fascinating. Her allies had vanished. Santos. Dominic's voice was ice. Security appeared at Victoria's side. "Get your hands off me." She tried to shake them off, but they held firm. "This isn't over, Dominic. You'll regret this. Both of you will." The ballroom doors closed behind her, cutting off her threats mid-sentence. The silence stretched for one heartbeat, two. Then the string quartet began playing again, and the room released its breath. Later that night, Elena stood on the mansion's rooftop terrace. The gala continued below, but up here, the noise faded to a gentle hum. Miami sprawled before her, lights glittering like fallen stars, the ocean a dark ribbon in the distance. She heard footsteps behind her and knew without turning who it was. "I'm sorry." Dominic's voice was quiet. "About your father, I didn't know until tonight." "I swear to you, Elena, I didn't know." She turned. He stood a few feet away, his bow tie loosened, his expression open in a way she'd never seen before. "Would it have mattered?" she asked. "If you'd known?" "Yes," no hesitation, "it would have mattered." Elena studied his face, the sharp lines, the grey eyes that had terrified her when they first met. He didn't look like a monster now. He looked like a man carrying a weight too heavy for one person. "My family destroyed yours," Dominic said. "I can't undo that. I can't bring your father back. But I can promise you this, no one will ever hurt you again, not while I'm breathing." "And what about you?" Elena stepped closer. "What do you want, Dominic?" He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was raw. "I want to be someone you could be proud of, someone who builds instead of destroys." He laughed softly, bitterly. "I want to finish my law degree. I want to prove that Raphael's death didn't kill everything good in me." "Then do it." Elena reached up, touched his face. "Start tomorrow. The Empire will survive without the devil of Miami. You might not." He caught her hand, held it against his cheek. His eyes searched hers. "Stay." The word was barely a whisper. "Not as staff, not as a guest. Stay because I'm asking you to." "Is that an order?" "It's the closest I've ever come to begging." Elena kissed him. She didn't think about it. Didn't weigh the consequences or calculate the risks. She just rose on her toes and pressed her lips to his. For one heartbeat, he froze. Then his arms wrapped around her, and he kissed her back like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning for years. The Miami skyline glittered below them. Music drifted up from the ballroom, and two people who should have been enemies chose something different. When they finally broke apart, Dominic rested his forehead against hers. "This is going to be complicated," he murmured. "I know. People will talk. Let them." He laughed, a real laugh, surprised and warm. Elena realized she'd never heard him laugh before. She decided she wanted to hear it again, for a very long time. Closing narration: 3 months later, Carmen Viga's debt was officially forgiven, 18 years of silence finally over. She moved into a small house near the beach, and every Sunday, Elena brought her flowers and they talked for hours about nothing and everything. Elena opened a support program for domestic violence survivors, funded quietly by the man who had once made her so afraid. She named it after her father, and Dominic Cortez, the devil of Miami, enrolled in night classes to finish his law degree. Some people said he'd gone soft. Those people didn't know him. He hadn't gone soft. He'd found something worth being strong for. But this was just the beginning, because Victoria Ashford wasn't the only enemy watching. Somewhere in the shadows, men with long memories and longer grudges were paying attention. And the truth about Alejandro Viga, the real truth, the one Carmen had never told anyone, went deeper than anyone knew. Final CTA if you want to know what happens next. When Elena discovers the full truth about her father, when Marcus Webb finally catches up to her, and when Dominic has to choose between his empire and the woman he loves. Make sure you're subscribed and you've hit that notification bell. Trust me, you're going to want to see this.